Everybody. So we're continuing on our conversation we started on Monday, and I know we kind of skipped over a day, but this just made sense to do on the Friday class on your own. This part of what we were talking about with India and its neighbors. So where we left off is we were talking about British colonialism, how it had been in South Asia, and then at some point after World War II, the British leave, and decolonization is what we call that. And that's a messy process. And so that's what we've been talking about here. Where do the borders end up? Why do the borders end up where they are? If a nation is an imagined community, we kind of imagine we, then who gets to be a we, and which we's get split up between other we's? I know that seems really weird to even say it that way, but like for example, here's a group, the Sikhs. The Sikhs. So do they get their own place, like a Sikhistan? Or do they get roped into one of the entities there, like India? Or does it get split up between multiple ones? This is where it gets really confusing, is who gets their own state and who doesn't and why? And it's completely messy. And one of the big divisions, just to go back in your notes and look, was this Muslim-Hindu division, which split the area. Again, setting Burma aside, set the area into the Muslim areas, which were Pakistan, and the Hindu areas, which were India. And then we talked a little bit about this, some of the problems with that India-Pakistan division. There's lots of other religions and ethnicities. Pakistan itself was discontinuous. You can see here, you've got what we know as Pakistan over here, but what becomes Bangladesh over here, that was considered East Pakistan. That was all Pakistan, one country. But that's super messy to have one part of your country way on the other side of your biggest rival, India. Then there were many Muslims in India, and there were many Hindus in the Pakistan areas. What are you going to do about that? We're going to watch a video later on today where it's going to look at Muslims in India. And the what they call cow-related killings, which you'll see here in just a second. How there's been this big uptick in India of Hindu nationalism, which is not just we're proud of being Hindus, but we're also like the religion is an incredibly important part of this. So if you're not this religion, you gotta go. It's almost a version of ethnic cleansing. And then Kashmir, which we didn't talk about. Kashmir is it's a mostly Muslim population. Kashmir is this area right here. I don't know if you can see me drawing it on the map right here, but it's this area right here. That's Kashmir. It's called Jammu Kashmir, but just Kashmir is good enough. It's a mostly Muslim population with a Hindu ruler. Now, when the British leave, the British say, okay, this area over here is going to be part of India. This area over here is going to be part of Pakistan. Now, what about Kashmir? Well, if you ask the people are going to say Pakistan. If you ask the leader's going to say India. So where does this place end up? The answer is the ruler chooses to stay in India, and the British aren't going to go and do a vote and say, okay, who's going to go where? Nope, they're just going to ask the leader, and the leader's going to say, we're staying in India. So it stays in India, the population is not very happy, and you have a mess. Let's just talk about this a little bit, and then you're going to watch a video on this. So here's a closer in vision of this area here. So in 1971, after one of the many wars fought between India and Pakistan, a sort of final line, there had been lines of control for a while, but a final line of control gets developed right there. So here's the whole area of Kashmir, and this line of control is sort of drawn right there, saying essentially the Indians will take care of this side, the Pakistanis will take care of this line. But with this understanding that at some point in the near future, we're going to have a vote, and the people are going to decide whether they go to Pakistan or whether they go to India. But obviously, if you know what the outcome is going to be, so for example, if you're India and you know the people of Kashmir are going to vote to go to Pakistan, then you're going to make sure the vote never happens. And that's kind of what has happened, is even though back in really 1940s, but 1971 especially, there was this agreement that there's going to be a vote. It's just never happened because India doesn't want to have the vote because then they'll lose this area. Guerrilla warfare since 1989, so a sort of civil war has broke out. This should be 40,000. 40,000 have been killed since 1989 in the midst of this conflict. This conflict has been linked to the Taliban in Afghanistan. It's been linked to the rise of Al-Qaeda. It's been linked to a lot of sort of different, what we would call terrorism, because this is sort of where this gets going. 1999, India and Pakistan fought a full-scale war over this, and by 1999, both countries had nuclear weapons. So we're talking about two nuclear-armed countries that could have quite easily tipped from we're fighting each other over this land to the nukes are flying. We're not talking about a lot of nukes. We're talking like maybe 20 on both sides, but that can really mess up this area. It may not affect you directly, but it will really cause, if a nuclear bomb goes off in this area, it will be very significant. And then just to make things even more complicated, China grabbed this little chunk right here and said, that's ours. The Siachen Glacier, this actually turns out to be here's a little interesting note for you if you ever, on trivia night. It is the war zone at the highest altitude is the Siachen Glacier, and China claims this area. So go watch a video on Kashmir, which is going to sort of, I did a very brief sketch. This is going to give you a little more information on it. Kashmir is incredibly important because it is a huge source of tension between India and Pakistan. And between India and Pakistan, we're talking, probably, I want to say, I don't want to go over the top here, but I want to say 15% of the Earth's population is connected to this particular thing. It is not a small thing. Even if you haven't heard of it, it's not a small thing. So take a look at that video. It pops up again every once in a while. Kashmir does. Just in over the summer, it kind of popped up. So watch that, and then we'll come back.